Row of the grid sees Australian International Vern Schuppen in 11, sharing that row with South Australian Johnny Walker in number 25. Third row, John McCormack absent from a three-car position, so it's just Graham McRae in 22 and Don Breeden back in 5. Behind is Chris Milton in 10, and in 24, John Davison from Victoria. Then we see Gary Cooper in 12. That's the official starter, half a minute to go. Gary Cooper is next, sharing his row of the grid with a fellow American or teammate of Breeden back. That's John David Briggs, number 4. Behind him, Alan Hamilton in 19, and John Goss in the blue car, number 2. Then we see Keith Holland in the white car, 6. 26 sees John Briggs, the Australian. They're about to get underway. This is the official starter, Glenn Dix. Flag raised, down it goes, and an excellent start from Warwick Brown and from Bruce Allison. Poor old Costanzo left with wheels spinning. They blast away a man we should be watching at the tail end is Kevin Bartlett in number 3. He's had to start from the rear of the grid, not having established any official practice times yesterday. But there it is, Warwick Brown and Johnny Walker, who got the good jump from the second row of the grid and really closes under brakes as they go into the right-hander at about 4th gear. Come back down then to 3rd, but he really is glued to his tail. There's Allison in 3rd place, and it's Schuppen in 4th, Costanzo in 5th. But my goodness, an astounding start there for Johnny Walker. It's Chris Milton. Kevin Bartlett up there, I think, at about 6th or 7th position. It certainly is. What an astounding start for Kevin Bartlett as we watch Warwick Brown come round the bowl for the first time, hounded by Johnny Walker. The gap back then with Costanzo, Milton, Kevin Bartlett, John Davis and Don Breeden back. And what a miraculous start for Kevin Bartlett. A brilliant run. John Price away from the start line from the tail end of the grid for Kevin Bartlett. Look how well Johnny Walker's going with the benefit of a new engine this week, an engine from the Belgian VDS team, the car and the team that he's hounding up there in front of him.
There was one thing we didn't notice, but Costanzo had great difficulty getting off the line. It's quite an art to get off the line, and he got his back wheel spinning too fast and too much smoke coming off, and he was virtually left for dead. And this is what let Walker right through and left Costanzo back in 5th place from the front row of the grid. So however, he's well into it now.
Brown and Walker, then Allison and Schuppen, then Costanzo breaking away from Milton. But Johnny Walker really has the bit between his teeth. The South Australian desperately keen to go well in front of his home crowd. Warwick Brown, without doubt, the pace setter in the series so far with a victory at Sandown. Superbly prepared car, beautifully driven by Warwick. Not an engine failure yesterday, but engine problems where they had falling oil pressure and they changed an engine overnight. Through this reverse camber left-hander and then back onto the sweeping bowl, coming round now to complete their 3rd lap. And Warwick Brown. That is Keith Holland in number 6. He's going in very tight there. A bit offline. That's the leading pair. Then Schuppen, Allison coming into picture, followed by Schuppen. So there's not much separating the first 4. The next one we see looming into picture there was Costanzo in 84. Again, we look at Warwick Brown. Back to America later in the year for the Can-Am Series. 27 years old. To be married in early March and breaking away slightly, as you can see, from the hard-charging Johnny Walker. But the interest also centres around what Allison and Schuppen can do behind, because they mustn't let Brown get too far away.
Allison is in 3rd and Schuppen in 4th, all about equal distance behind John Walker.
3.5 seconds separating the first 4 cars at this stage. Not a great deal in it. Costanzo last week pegged Brown back from a deficit of about 11 seconds, finally to be able to overtake him in the closing part of last week's race. But Brown at the moment very much setting the pace. He set the pace all through practices, going right back to Friday, when he did 49.8 in practices on Friday, repeated it again on Saturday to grab pole position. Couldn't come out in the second practice session, so he didn't do a great deal of practicing. That's Johnny Walker, then Bruce Allison 3rd, Schuppen in 4th, then we see Costanzo in 5th, We look then to Chris Milton heading that pack in 6th with Kevin Bartlett just behind him. It was Keith Holland in the white car, and that's Alan Hamilton, the Victorian in the silver, ex-BDS team Lola from last year's series. That's a tremendous...
Keith Holland is still smoking.
Yes, Keith Holland has been having a fair amount of trouble through this series, and behind Warwick Brown, doing it fairly easily at the moment out there in front, the way, quite frankly, he'd like to be doing it. Behind him is quite a battle, and that's Keith Holland in 6th, the Chevron from England. Not a highly successful team in the series so far, because his teammate Chris Featherstone has been almost the slowest car at Sandown, and he was the slowest here today in practices. That's Brown coming onto the speed bowl. Johnny Walker's lost nothing to him in the last couple of laps. Allison's breaking away and starting to come up to join them. And Schubert's not giving much away either, and so too is Alfredo Costanzo, pegging himself to the back of that group of 4 cars. We'll see Costanzo come into picture there, and behind them there is a tremendous strap-on. Now this is the situation that Warwick Brown's going to be faced with throughout the race, lapping other cars. Keith Holland, incidentally, coming into the pits now to retire car number 6, with a lot of smoke coming from it. So that's the first withdrawal. Keith Holland, the Englishman, 41 years old, looks to have his race run with, if not major mechanical problems, certainly an oil leak.
They're not taking much notice of the car, so presumably it's fairly serious.
This is Johnny Walker. A great start as he leapt away there, losing very, very little, in fact nothing on the last 3 laps to the leader. And in the meantime, behind them, we've seen Schuppen pick up ground there on Bruce Allison coming into picture. Schuppen starting to hover around, and then there's Costanzo and Bartlett coming up to join them. Bartlett broken away from the group behind them. And Kevin Bartlett with a rebuilt engine with a few borrowed bits, but basically rebuilding his own engine overnight, starting from the tail end of the grid, as he hadn't practiced the car all day yesterday, has already performed miracles to be placed up in 6th position at this stage.
Bartlett's car is the only Brabham in the field, incidentally, and it's a very distinctive looking machine.
So Johnny Walker is gap now 2.27 seconds. He is behind the leader, Warwick Brown, and further back, well, they're already in dense race traffic with 8 laps completed by the leading cars. The job of Brown is to thread his way successfully through the very dense traffic that they're going to encounter all through the race, but also for everybody behind them to make sure that they stay tagged with him. The difficulty is that around the back part of the circuit, there are virtually no spots for overtaking. The only real opportunity for overtaking, Warwick Brown was saying yesterday, that even in this section, a slower competitor in terms of lap times can hold him back if he's got a good engine charging onto the speed bowl there. So this is Brown with a 2.25 second lead over Johnny Walker. Allison would be 3 seconds further back with Schuppen right on his tail. Costanzo coming up to join them. He's working on the problem and without any doubt has made ground. Next placed car, Kevin Bartlett, being followed by John Davison, Don Breidenbach, Chris Milton, Graham McRae, Gary Cooper and John Goss.
Since the placings came up on the screen for the 5th lap, Bartlett has passed Chris Milton.
Bartlett's doing a good job and now has a bit of free track between himself and Costanzo. And again, Brown coming down low on the track and then sweeps to the outside, right out towards the wall. He accelerates hard in 3rd gear, up into 4th gear, and then finally 5th gear, 280 kilometres an hour. That was Allison and Schuppen. Then we saw Costanzo, and waiting for the next pack of cars, and here they come snarling their way onto the banked section of the raceway. It's Kevin Bartlett leading that pack, followed by John Davison, Don Breidenbach, then Graham McRae, Chris Milton, Gary Cooper, John Goss, and the American John David Briggs. And then Alan Hamilton is the next place car in number 19. They have now completed 10 laps. 1/5 of the 50-lap race distance. Back section of the circuit, and this clump of traffic, John Price,
yes,
which is some great formation driving, but a remarkable performance from Kevin Bartlett in particular.
Yes, Bartlett leading that little group, and they're all very close together, bunched, and I think Bartlett is trying to get away from them, because it's very much easier if you're driving on your own. Here he is leading that bunch.
It's a great pack there with Kevin Bartlett, John Davison, John Breitenbach and Graham McRae, a real international bunch of cars. We've got a New Zealander, American, an Australian, and another Australian, all in that pack. And John Davison slipping back a position there as Don Breitenbach slipped down inside him under brakes. A good move by the American Breitenbach. Nobody knew much about him when he came here, and he said in a modest sort of a way that we wouldn't have come here if we didn't think we could win the series on consistency and win at least one race. This is Breitenbach, who's had two minor accidents in the series. That's Chris Milton going unaccustomedly well. John Goss behind him in the blue car, number 2. This is Bartlett, followed now by Breitenbach, who's moved up in front of John Davison, son of the famous Victorian. And in fact, it's Graham McRae there. So Davison has moved out of that bunch. It's Graham McRae, and McRae is having a crack at Breitenbach as they go up the straight. Breitenbach, though, wants to go past Bartlett.
I think Breitenbach is testing Bartlett out, and I think in the next couple of laps we'll see him trying to have a go, and it looks as though the end of the main straight is where he's going to have a shot at it.
It's the main spot for overtaking. This little VT43 Brabham, a fairly unique car in the racing world, was just imported by Bartlett for the series, much lighter than the car number 5 of Don Breitenbach, who's slow out of that section there, very slow indeed. And he said this morning he felt he hadn't quite come to grips with certain parts of the circuit, and he is noticeably slower than some of the other competitors through certain sections. McRae has a very light car, as also has Kevin Bartlett. McRae's is in fact the lightest car in the series, bar that of John McCormack's.
It looks as though Bartlett was aware that Breitenbach was going to have a go, and as they came to the end of the main straight, all three pulled over to the middle, yes, to make sure there was no way through.
Yes, they're tending to cover that loophole down the inside there. It would be tending to slow Kevin Bartlett a bit. Acknowledges the flag there, showing him that somebody's following closely. And the old soldier of Australian racing, Kevin Bartlett, twice Australian champion driver, back in 1968 and 1969, is very quick through the tight stuff. Kevin really does know how to charge, but has been handicapped for many years through sometimes poor machinery, old and worn-out machinery, and lack of money, and not being able to go as hard as he would like. But this is a great dice.
The third car in that group, the leading group there, is Graham McRae in a GM car, one of his own design and manufacture. And I think he is trying just as hard to get past Breitenbach as Breitenbach is trying to get past Bartlett, number 3.
This is the dice for 6th, 7th and 8th place. Kevin Bartlett in 6th. Breitenbach behind him is in 7th, McRae in 8th, and behind him it's Milton in 9, Ross in 10 and Gary Cooper in 11th. Look at McRae! Oh, it's very hard to get round the back there, but McRae's having a real go. The New Zealander who's won 3 of these International Formula 5000 series, yes, and who's been very much out of racing for 2 years, but who was challenging Brown strongly last week for the lead, is having a crack up the straight. He's down on the inside of Breitenbach. He will get past him, I think, under brakes. He's got him boxed in, and they'll go deeply under brakes at 280 kilometres an hour. McRae inside Breitenbach.
No, didn't make it. Didn't make it.
And Bartlett, in the meantime, would have a quick look in the mirrors to see what's going on behind, and he knows just how much pressure is on him. In the meantime, the situation at the front is quite unchanged, with Brown leading from Johnny Walker. Vern Schuppen has now incidentally got past Bruce Allison. Schuppen up to 3rd. Costanzo's not far behind Allison, so he's in 5th place. And then, of course, we have the dice that we've been looking at, that is with Bartlett and McRae and Breitenbach. So Bartlett, Breitenbach, McRae putting on a great dice, a great demonstration of icing, and it's been a very strong wind that drivers were going into up this straight yesterday, but it has fallen considerably today, but still is a headwind as the drivers go up the main straight.
Yes, yesterday's wind was so strong that they had different characteristics going up the main straight into the wind and coming down the other side of the wind behind them.
We saw there Warwick Brown coming past to complete 17 laps in a 50-lap race, and this Adelaide International Raceway 2.41 kilometres around. Brown out now on his 18th lap. Behind him, Johnny Walker still hanging on well to second position. That's Walker in the white car. Further back, Shupin has moved to third. That's Shupin at the back of the picture there. And in fourth place is Allison. A number of lap cars in. That's Johnny Walker in second place. South Australian going remarkably well. A sad time at Sandown where uncompetitive engines left him right out of the running, but he said if I spend the money on an engine, I can get into the prize money, and it's an investment worth making. He's made the investment. He's got an engine from Count Rudy van der Straat, the Belgian BDS team that supports Warwick Brown, and today he's going like a flyer. That's the race situation at the moment. A very good race it is too. Costanzo is travelling slowly. Costanzo has fallen off the pace somewhat, I think. We see him on the straight about now, should come into the bottom of the picture there. And Alf seems to be losing position. We see that dice there, Bartlett Breidenbach.
No, I'm sorry, that's Walker.
Johnny Walker, in fact, coming through some lapped cars.
Yes, in second place.
He's worked his way past John Briggs, the South Australian John Briggs in the Matic, and coming up with another lapped car, but this is Brown signalling his pits that everything's A-OK, into fourth gear and sweeping through this corner at about 200 odd kilometres an hour, and Costanzo's race is very definitely just about to be finished, starting to smoke. Costanzo is now back in fifth place, but it's a worse fifth position as he's lapping slowly, and undoubtedly with that telltale smoke from the car, he's not going to be there for very long. So once again, it's a weekend of sad stories for the young Victorian who went so well at Sandown Park last weekend.
Sometimes known as Australia's Mario Andretti.
Yes, indeed. Very much an Italian in temperament and accent and so on, but resident in Victoria, much loved by the racing fraternity, very talented, has for years been doing things on very, very much of a shoestring budget, and I fear that he's just about to spend a fair deal more money after having broken a conrod last weekend. He is, however, still in front of Kevin Bartlett, who's in fifth place. McRae, who's now up to sixth. McRae has got past Breidenbach. Goss has got past Milton, and then there's Gary Cooper and John David Briggs in four. So the race position's altering all the time. Warwick Brown in the lead has a lead of 4.87 seconds over Johnny Walker. It would be about 3 seconds further back then to Vern Shupin. This is Kevin Bartlett in sixth. McRae now up into seventh place and having a real crack at Bartlett. That's Breidenbach very nearly being brought undone by Peter Middleton. Middleton being lapped in 55, but finally gets out of the way, and Breidenbach knew that he mustn't slip back behind him, then he would have lost his momentum. So he stuck his nose in, and Middleton at the last moment got out of the way, but McRae having a real crack at Bartlett down the 1 odd kilometre straight at Adelaide International Raceway. This is a drag strip as well, as you see the Ampol finish signs there indicating the end of the 400-metre run down from the BP start line, which was the race start line. On through the back and on to Shell Straight. Down now into the Uni Royal S's, and then we look at Brown. Coming round back section of the circuit. There he is there, into the Uni Royal S's. Brown says the trick there is to get through Black Chat in 4th gear.
Peter Middleton.
Looking there at Stephen Fraser, one of the cars that did run at Sandown last weekend. We see Chris Milton coming into the pits there. That's in car number 10. Milton was going remarkably well early on in the race. He was holding the 9th place. A remarkably good position, I think you'd agree, John, for Chris Milton, who has tended to shine before.
I think he's indicating a flat tyre. They're working on the right-hand front tyre, and I think that may have gone flat. Milton came into the pitch pointing down to it, and the mechanics are working furiously on that right-hand front tyre. This is bad luck for Chris because he was holding an extremely good position. And I think this will drop him, this stop here will drop him at least a lap. See how quickly they can go. Just knocking the hubcap off securely on.
And we look now at this dice of Kevin Bartlett being challenged so strongly by Graham McRae there. That's in the top of the picture. Bartlett in the dark car number 3. McRae in the light car with the perspex cover to it. You can actually look into the car and see hands and feet working. Coming down into the S's now. That group of cars there, it is quite a battle going on, because we see then Breitenbach being strongly challenged by Goss, Gary Cooper in 12, the second of the Elfin team cars. And they come now onto the bowl. They're in 6th place, and Bartlett is 5.1 seconds in 6th place, 5.1 seconds behind Alfredo Costanzo. At the moment, Bartlett would be losing lap time through trying to hold out Graham McRae, and it would be to Costanzo's advantage. Although Alf obviously has some trouble, but at the moment apparently not major trouble. Nevertheless, this dice with McRae and with Bartlett would be to Costanzo's advantage.
Yes, the problem with Costanzo, he is probably able to nurse his engine a little at this stage, with Bartlett not being able to get away from McRae. But the interesting thing is that Costanzo seems to have stopped smoking. It's either the problem has cured himself or he's run out of oil.
Into the pits goes Stephen Fraser, another retirement in number 30, but this dice between Bartlett and McRae is a beauty. There's Costanzo to
coming into the pits.
And it had to happen, unfortunately. Costanzo in 5th place was 5 seconds in front of Kevin Bartlett. Now into the pits, and all one can say for the situation is that he's avoided a major disaster at the moment. Let's see what happens. 5th place, there's his friend Giovanni Marino, man that's been with him for years, down to the back of the car to see what's causing it. Is it a major or is it a minor problem?
Head shaking, and I think that's the end. Yes, looks like it.
And Warwick Brown, though, running absolutely like clockwork up in the front of the field. Heads Johnny Walker still. There he is, threading his way through some of the slower competitors. That's John David Briggs, the second of the Tropicana racing team entry, slower than his teammate Don Breitenbach. But nevertheless, a fairly hard charger, a man not with an enormous amount of experience in this class of car, or in fact in racing generally. Both of them 27 years old, Don Breitenbach and John David Briggs, and a very well put together team indeed. McRae looks as though he's made a break on Kevin Bartlett as we watch them come down now into the Uni Royal S's.
Yes.
This is the slender homemade product of Graham McRae, now in front of Kevin Bartlett. He's made the break.
Yes,
McRae
got
is
past.
up into 4th position thereby. With the retirement of Costanzo, McRae is in 4th place in 22, followed by Bartlett, then Don Breitenbach, John Goss, Gary Cooper. They're in race order there, and in fact it's not far behind them to the race leader, Warwick Brown, to give you an indication of how far he is in front of that battling group. Warwick Brown just behind them on the straight, that's the race leader. Vern Schuppen still looking quite good in 3rd place in 11. 4th place is Bruce Allison in 62, falling away from Schuppen. Costanzo 5th. Let's get it right. 5th is Graham McRae in
Yes.
22. Bartlett in 6th.
Then Breedenbach, then Goss. There's McRae with his plastic-sided body. You can see a lot of him in there.
Goss goes down inside. Oh my goodness, on the bowl there. A real thrust from Johnny Goss. Trying to go down inside Goss right back, and I don't think anybody's ever tried that before on the inside in the bowl, because they come in right down low in the middle of the bank section there. And Goss was slotting his car right inside Breitenbach. Poor old John Goss, he was full of tales of woe all last weekend and most of this weekend, but once he gets into the racing car, he really does have a go. Of course, an Australian Grand Prix winner in 1976, a Hardy Ferodo winner a few years earlier. A very talented man who, however, doesn't always get his act together. There he is now, John Goss and Breitenbach. Let's see what he can do again. They're on the reverse camber. It was just further on here that he actually tried to get past Breitenbach on the previous lap. He's quick through here, but he is quick. He's made a bit of ground on him. He'll try and come out of the corner quickly. Perhaps slipstream him. Have a crack as they go up the back straight. They're in 4th gear. They're now picking up 5th, and Breitenbach trying to throw him off out of the airstream. There goes Goss. But a very tight entry to the corner for Goss. Sees him effectively slower through the corner. Breitenbach picked the right line, the wide entry, and was able to hang with it. That's Bartlett. We've seen McRae go away from this battling group, so it's Bartlett in 6th now, driving very well. A fabulous start from the rear of the grid. Breitenbach, Goss, Gary Cooper. Gary Cooper came second, of course, in Sandown, was slower than the two Ansett Team Elfin cars. But with Schuppen's retirement, finally finished second. A remarkably good effort for the designer of the Elfin racing cars. Bartlett, Breitenbach, Goss, and I believe in a moment in the pits we may be able to hear from Alfredo Costanzo. Well, I believe now that we've got Alfredo Costanzo in the pits to tell us what went wrong with car number 84.
Well, Alfredo, you had a bad run last week. What happened this time?
I think the 1 or 2 rings must have broke inside the engine, you know, piston rings, and compression must go through the sun. Can I hear there?
Yes. How does this place you for the rest of the series? You must be down to about your last motor by now.
Yeah, it was. It's nothing serious, really. Nothing serious. I think it's only broken rings. But we have to pull them out in bits and have a look what it is.
Will you be running in the next race or not?
I beg one?
Will you be able to run in the next race or not?
Yes, I think so. I think so.
Thank you very much, Alfredo Costanzo.
On the 24th lap, Costanzo was in 5th position, dropped back then and retired at the completion of the 25th lap. The race now is in its 33rd lap, 32 laps having been completed by the race leader. Warwick Brown in 1, Johnny Walker in 2nd in 25, Vern Schuppen 3rd in 11, as we see there. Then Bruce Allison, Graham McRae, Kevin Bartlett. A very interesting race, but at the moment, Warwick Brown doing everything right. There's John Goss, car number 2, one of very hard charger, and so too is Kevin Bartlett up there in front of Breitenbach. And look at Gary Cooper. Gary Cooper really, John Price is driving as well as we've ever seen him drive.
Right. I think he was fired with enthusiasm. And Goss is having a go at Breitenbach. He didn't quite make it again. Look, very close indeed. Trying to go on the inside. And Goss has gone to the inside of the track again. He's going to try and outbrake Breitenbach for the next corner. But I don't think he'll make it. No.
Fabulous racing at 280 kilometres an hour. Down on the brakes there into 4th gear and the right-hander. They come down to about 190 kilometres an hour through there. Then for the second section of the corner, it's 3rd gear. They punch up out of there, and this is Goss. the man who's throwing out the tremendously strong challenge to Breidenbach, and would love then to move up to have a crack at Bartlett. Bartlett in 6th, Breidenbach 7th, Goss 8, Cooper 9, and behind them, looming up and really going to disturb the formation is the race leader, Warwick Brown. He's got to lap this group now, and this is difficult for Brown, but also could just upset one of the groups in there, and that's the race leader. He's caught this group in 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th place, and has now got to make his way past them, and will be very lucky if he can do so through the back section, so he'll be behind them for another lap. And that's the race leader locking up and very, very nearly skating off. He lost a lot of ground there, tried to go down inside Gary Cooper and didn't pull it off.
It's a very difficult position here because these chaps are, these four in front of him are all lapping with extremely small gap, speed differential, and Brown will have to really work hard to get past them.
So
he's fallen well behind again. He's about 100 meters behind that group. There's the group of 4. Goss moving up beside Breidenbach again, but I don't think he'll make it. No, Goss falls into the 3rd place again in that group. He's closed right up on Breidenbach, and let's see how they come, particularly as he comes onto the oval at the end of this little S-bit here. They'll come back onto the oval. That's Kevin Bartlett, Breidenbach, Goss, Gary Cooper, and now we've got Goss and Breidenbach in the middle there. Goss is getting fairly close. I think he might... No. I think Breidenbach is aware of Goss's presence and is not letting him in.
2.2 seconds cover that group of 5 cars from Bartlett back to Gary Cooper and then to the race leader, Warwick Brown. And this really is a most difficult moment for Brown because it's very hard to get past cars other than down the main straight. And as you say, John, this is the dice of the race.
Yes.
These drivers are quite intent on their own particular problems, and there's no way, quite frankly, that they can be much worried about the race leader.
That's right. I will say, of course, that they do give the race leader some consideration.
It might be a great deal at this stage.
But if they're battling hard together, well, it's devil take the hindmost.
He's well positioned now. He's fairly close to Cooper as they come onto the straight, and he just may be able to get some steam up the straight and to pull his way past. But then there are another group of cars that are being lapped for the 2nd time. So there's sort of cars in 3 different race situations.
Breidenbach has got past Bartlett.
So, and coming up now, and it's John Davison just in front. It's not John Davison, John Briggs in front in 26. He's about to be lapped for at least the 2nd time. So, cars in 3 different race situations here. Breidenbach past Bartlett, then Goss. And that's Schuppen.
And Walker is right up. Walker is right up to Brown.
Right, so Johnny Walker's come up to join the group. Brown has worked his way past Gary Cooper. We see him there. And he then goes past John Briggs, was the other car that he got past in the middle of the bowl. He was in the dark car, number 26. As you say, Johnny Walker's come up to join them. Still, Schuppen is in 3rd place, 40 laps completed. Schuppen in 3rd, Allison 4th. And then in 5th, this great scrap with Kevin Bartlett and, of course, Breidenbach now in front of him, and the suggestion that light rain may be starting to fall in a repeat of last weekend's situation at Sandown Park. And that's Breidenbach and Goss. Goss now past Bartlett as well. And Goss again trying to gnaw at the tail end of the Lola. An Australian-built car is John Goss's car, number 2. The blue Matic-built car coming up to that Peter Middleton, and he gets by because he's boxed in Breidenbach. But Breidenbach pulls out in a do-or-die, and Goss must be in front.
No. Absolutely level. No. He's done it, I think. Unless he's gone too fast for that corner at the end of the main straight.
So, Johnny
No,
Goss.
he's done it.
Johnny Goss in 2 now, comes up to 5th position. Well, great driving. That's Chris Featherstone, the English driver. He's been the disappointment of the series, quite frankly. Pretty slow in car number 20. Into the pits, he was running tail end, Charlie.
I think he's giving up also. Yes, they've gone round to look at... No, they're not even looking at the engine.
So, we've seen now with
the wisps of smoke coming from the engine, and I think that's the end for Chris Featherstone from England.
Calling in at the end of his 36th lap. He was some 5 laps down on the race leader when he went into the pits. And there we see in the middle of that group, well, we're looking at Goss initially. That's Goss in 2, followed by Breitenbach, whom he's just overtaken. Race leader Brown, then Bartlett and Gary Cooper. Brown has been working so hard at this problem of lapping everybody, and then on the tail end of the pair behind him is second-placed Johnny Walker. They come now onto the banking for the 43rd time in a 50-lap race. Don Breitenbach now with Warwick Brown about to go past him. About 2 seconds further back to second-placed Johnny Walker in 25.
Walker's pulling away, Brown is pulling away quite a bit from Breitenbach now. There was a case of Breitenbach saw Brown, moved over, let him through, and then hopped in behind him for a tow.
Well, also with the situation suddenly resolved between him and Goss, it was to Warwick Brown's advantage, quite frankly, but that situation did resolve itself because Breitenbach could then give him the clear track that he deserved and that he would have wanted.
And now it's Walker's turn to try and get through. He's right on Vern Schuppen's tail. Vern Schuppen has come up to second.
Vern Schuppen, yes, up into second position in front of Johnny Walker, so in the midst of all that battling, Schuppen has slipped past Johnny Walker, and we must get a gap then on first, back to second Vern Schuppen, and keep a watch on it, just to see what's happening to it over the remaining laps of the race. 44 completed by the leading 4 cars of Warwick Brown in 1, Schuppen now in 11, Johnny Walker in 25, Bruce Allison in 62 are the first 4. We're looking there at Brown and Schuppen now in second position in car number 11. The gap back from first to second place is 2.31 seconds, so nothing in it at all, and this could be a charge from here to the end by the Australian International. Vern Schuppen, second last year at the Le Mans 24-hour race. The most talented driver, or most experienced driver by far in the field, but very talented as well, and very much the big professional. A car is blown up on the main straight, just past the pits, and may well have spread a little bit of oil, but only on a straight section of circuit. So Brown now, with pressure on him, 45 completed, 5 to go, and only 2.3 seconds in front of Schuppen there, going past Breitenbach, and he's doing it easily at the moment. This is the English-built Lola versus the Australian-built and designed Elfin. 2 expatriate Australian drivers. Breitenbach off the circuit in 5. Don Breitenbach in number 5 is in 6th position, or was, in 7th place. He slipped back to 7th. He spun there yesterday. He's very quickly underway again. He was in 7th when he went, and we'll give you his position as he comes past the pits.
I just caught Breitenbach. He locked a brake and spun it at that point. Now this is this is Stephen Fraser, who's come back onto the circuit. He came into the pits, back on, but obviously something else has happened.
He was the one that seemed to run into major problems on the straight. A lot of smoke from the car, and he's pulled up a long way back in the field, actually, on a very modest budget. In fact, he's been involved in making his own engine parts, Stephen Fraser. So that's Johnny Walker, who's been deposed from second position back to third. That all happened on the 41st lap. He'd held second position from starting in fifth position at the outside of the second row. And look at Schuppan now, having a crack at Warwick Brown. It's 1.5 seconds, 0.8 of a second made up by Schuppan, and the pressure is on Warwick Brown with 47 completed. Brown, he had this sort of pressure last weekend. He had it to a certain extent from Schuppan, but then he had it from McRae. He had it and finally yielded to it from Costanzo. And then only 3 laps from the end, he saw Costanzo's engine blow when he was in the lead, and he regained the lead and won the event at Sandown. He won the series in 77, he won it in 75, and he's off back to America later this year, as is also Vern Schuppan, for a major crack in the Can-Am series of races. What a great finish to an excellent race here at Adelaide International Raceway. 48 laps completed now by Warwick Brown in first, Schuppan in second, Johnny Walker in third, Allison coming up to complete his 48th, 2 to go. And first and second place there, you can see McRae in fifth, John Goss in sixth. So, with this lap completed, just about 5 kilometres, 4.8 kilometres to the finish. Schuppan raging inside him there. He's got a lot of steam up his sleeve.
And there's some slow traffic in front of Brown, so this is going to be very interesting indeed, whether he can hold that for the last couple of laps.
Schuppan blowing 2 engines last weekend at Sandown suddenly has the opportunity of really pulling out the major prize money, $28,000 on each race, $8,000 for first, $5,000 for second, so he has real incentive. He's on $3,000 extra to get past Warwick Brown, but that's not what it's about in the professional sphere of racing, which is what concerns both Brown and Schuppan. They make their living from it. Your living comes, and the size of your living comes from how well you go. And there's Schuppan. Slipping past Peter Edwards as he chases Brown. He was doing well there to get past him and not to let him slip in. And there's Peter Middleton in the way. And they both get past him. This is hectic. Onto the bowl. The reverse corner, and now coming up to the bowl. Coming up. They're on their last.
I believe
and
John
coming
Goss
up
has
to
fallen
complete
back a
their
bit.
final lap. This is the ticket coming up now.
There he is.
So, 1.1 seconds from Warwick Brown in first to Vern Schuppan finishing second in number 11. Johnny Walker third in number 25. Fourth place now to Bruce Allison in 62, a little bit of a way back. Graham McRae will finish fifth in number 22. Well, John Price, a great battle.
Well, Will, I'll leave you and go down and see Brown.
Thank you, John Price. A great battle there. Great last-minute challenge from Vern Schuppan on Warwick Brown. And great credit to both of them.